In the beginning, Part 2, The New Gods. The shadows of the past lay upon Earth's broken skin. The mistakes her parents wrought from their selfishness and sin convinced Earth to turn away and find a truth to call her own. Feeling the pulse within herself to seed only the seeds she herself had sown, she saw things differently than sun, and much differently from moon. She knew she had to stand alone to find her very own sweet tune. For Sun may have been quite strong, but he was conceited as can be, and Moon may have been humble, but she did not speak honestly. And the world that they created upon her was the one of gods, but Earth saw the truth quite differently. She knew what they did not. For she knew her truth from within, while they only saw it from without. They saw the brightness of the gods, they didn't see the fallout. So Earth walked away and built huge castles in the sky, towers from the ground that reached 5 miles high. She found love inside her mountains and built temples in her grounds. She had depths you couldn't fathom, truth in every tiny sound. A million things all within her breathed together, with wisdom deep beyond the changes of her stormy weather. She called them the new gods, much different from the old. They were built of consciousness, they were made of soul. And as she listened to herself, her breath reflected in the many, her vision perfected, it was truth, perfected by the plenty. She dreamed a better dream than her parents could envision. The creatures sun and moon made sure were pretty, but hers were ones of deep precision. Theirs were boring and serene, while hers were almost obscene. Things of power and of grace flowing free inside her space. And knowing all, she made her world into a work of sublime perfection. Nature lived with man, all interconnected. A vast city it was, full of parks, chaos and harmony, technology and art. On Earth she sat alone, blissful drifting out alone in space, but she was happy, don't you fret, admiring her own grace. In perfection unassisted, Earth was more than just existing in her mystic kingdoms. That was how she lived those days. And in the green gorges and auburn hills, her people learned of mystic skills. Hachu-Icha and Rashatanu were the ones that led the ways and lived a life quite effortless those days. And in those days of alchemical perfection, nights were ones of constant blessings, staring at the stars and animals and plants, felt deep love and connection. And in this city so endless, men were gods and none were friendless. Days were warm and never hot, though fights broke out, war did not. And for a time life seemed to be without much pain. But then a storm came, one November, bringing cyclones to remember, tearing up the statues where they lay. Brutal sports replaced the quiet. Animals and men did riot, and when the riots ended, they took the land and they divided. Winter came and snow and death, and something Earth thought she had left in her parents' memory. It came. As tensions grew and hunger's flame led to a breaking point one day, war broke out among the barren plains. As Earth looked down across her skin, red with blood and her parents' sin, she looked away, for she could not accept that she was just as her parents. This war that happened was aberrant, but she promised herself it shall never occur again. My dry skin won't last forever. I'll stop this war and stormy weather. Bring the leader, let her talk to me. So Earth, she talked to Rashamir, said, listen and be sure you're hearing. I want you to simply do my way. Take this elixir and this tonic, cure my land of this chronic sickness that I see in every way. Rasha smiled and said, I see. But do you know of destiny and his brothers called the Golden Three? Yes, the earth said, I remember. Even now in this December there was he and lust and enmity. Well, Rasha said, they were quite brilliant, king of kings of all existence, but in the end they lived in prison, not in life. But in their minds, you see. Earth smiled and said, I know the story, I was there, and what is morally true is I will not make their mistakes. So when destiny decreed that he knew all for he could see, I am surely not as vain as he. And while lust wanted every dollar, I am much, much, much more modest. I only want just what I need. And lastly, that full enmity, do you think I am like he? I love all, and I accept the way it be. Then why, asked Rasha, are you willing to poison yourself with this thing you're given to extend your spring just one more day? Earth smiled, and then she snapped her fingers, if she had hands, that is. She snapped them inwards, and had Rasha sent far, far, far away. And by herself Earth took her pill, that livened up her shriveled hills, and the problems that were once so vast seemed for a time a thing of her past. But as the years passed by, one day came a storm whose path could not be changed, not by the pills and not by potions, not by elixirs, teas, or lotions, and all the potions Earth could brew only caused this storm to brew. And where before there was a war, this time there was a war times 4. And where before there was no rain, this time the drought was for twice the days. And Earth felt old and like her parents, and also well she felt embarrassed. So she cast a spell, though in all fairness she did not know just how aberrant. The spell made her look quite young and pretty. The other planets saw her quickly, took to her, and lusting recklessly. She loved this and denied her weakness, kept increasing, kept on tweaking, till one day the sun saw her, and he cried. He said, I'll bring the old gods back. A world without you, it would lack a lot of color and vitality. Earth, she smiled, but kept insisting that she would just keep on persisting all alone till one day she could not. And this lasted for a time until one day, just like fine wine, Earth grew old and reached her end. She did not grow old in grace and beauty, but when autumn came, then she truly saw the wisdom in the need for change. In the north, the borealis and the quiet days filled up her chalice with more energy than she thought she'd ever see. And she stopped primping and stopped caring for her superficial bearings. Let them think I'm ugly if they choose. I will no longer be ashamed. I know my truth. I know my ways. And I want to accept and to embrace. As my fall turns into winter, I'll slow down, my change will come quicker, and I will ready myself to ride the final wave. And winter came, but something changed. She felt something inside her growing, something strange she was not knowing. She was ready to depart, but deep inside a greater spark told her it was not yet her dying day. And one day she gave birth to a child. He was bright and shining wild, and she named him Eternity. As she took him, she quickly fathomed all the things she could not imagine, not known to her, now known to her with maternity. Her life no longer just her own, her perfection not the only seeds to sow. Earth was now a mother, growing younger with conviction for this great new adventure that she would now be living.